Okay, this video is going to be a bit of a collage of things and updating anyone who's interested and wondering what's happened to the Supercharged Ute. I guess first thing would be I had forgotten how sad the transmission is that came with the motor I put in the Ute. I can't remember now if I actually ever really mentioned it, but basically just before I put the supercharger in my Ute, I swapped out the 200 kilowatt pursuit motor for a 220 kilowatt engine and transmission package, and the transmission sadly was worse than the sad old one that was in the Ute. I think the Ute's at about 292,000 k's now, and the 220 kilowatt motor transmission combo I put in was at, I think, 243 when I put it in. So I will have a collage of things going along on this video, and I will add some more audio over some bits and pieces as we go along the way. Yeah, so get yourself a cup of coffee or a beverage, preferably cold and frothy, or neat whiskey, and have a bit of a catch up. And here's going to be a couple of pictures of when the Ute was actually getting sorted and diagnosed. So I eventually gave up, took it up to Jared at the tuning studio, who is a real bloody GC around here in Nelson, and I should have listened to him really early on, because when I was having these issues back then, he was questioning the injectors and said, I reckon it could be them, blah blah blah, check them out. Anyway, ended up taking it to him, doing fuel pressure tests and like header temperature tests and stuff, and pretty quickly he was again thinking like injectors. Strapped it on the dyno, put it under some light load, actually managed to get some colour in the plugs and heat in the cylinders, and as you can see in this picture with the spark plugs showing the temperature of the headers and the plug conditions, just all over the place with the fueling. It's like super lean, super rich, super hot, super cold. So yeah, used injectors, got them to just put a really basic, more or less basic tune, more or less a base map in it, so it was drivable. Didn't want him to invest too much time into it. And yeah, he ended up doing a power run because he couldn't help himself. Took it out to, I think, from memory, just over 5,000 RPM in third gear, and she put down, I think, 336 horsepower at the wheels, which I think that equates to about 220 kilowatts. Anyone that's interested could potentially message me, and I could give you details on the timing and stuff. But anyway, it's like really conservative timing, quite rich or fat on the fuel. So yeah, definitely a lot more potential there. I've since adjusted the tune, given it quite a bit more timing, less fuel, seems to go really well. And so definitely going to be more power than that. I'm kind of gunning for and hoping for around 350 wheel horsepower. And yeah, hopefully maybe in like the next, as soon as possible, but I'm thinking like a month, we can get her on the dyno and see what she's doing now. So at that stage, after the dyno and getting sorted, the primary objective was getting a transmission rebuild or another transmission in there. So fitted a transcooler, and then went down the journey of sorting out a transmission. Right, more progress has been made. Next little Ute update, we have got a transmission cooler going in. Want to get that all done the next couple of nights after work, so I don't have to worry about that when I do the transmission swap on Saturday at work. A transmission that's not trying to shit itself is at the top of the food chain of things to do at the moment. And she's back on the ground and ready to get driven again. And I've
did some learning with the way the brackets work with how the front bar goes on, so I've got the alignment, the edge gap a lot better.
So I rang around some transmission shops in Christchurch because the Nelson one is definitely not an old BTR 4-speed specialist shop by any stretch of the imagination, and managed to get speaking to the owner of one shop who seemed to be pretty knowledgeable, and he actually had a transmission there that he rebuilt for someone, top to bottom, front to back, or whichever way you want to look at it. That never got collected, so I thought, perfect, I will buy that. Then I can just do a day in the workshop, remove the old transmission, fit the new one, and drive away. And, so I've pulled the exhaust and pulled the drive shaft and drained the transmission, and then thought maybe I should actually check the other one is definitely correct. Rookie mistake, because of course it was incorrect. The guy sent me an E-Series one, which obviously has a dipstick, not a fill plug, and I obviously didn't have a dipstick to put in the dipstick hole, and I thought about trying to bodge it to finish it, and then I just gave up and was like, nah, this isn't going to bloody work. So I had to put it all back together and then send the incorrect transmission back to the shop in Christchurch for a refund and make other plans. So I managed to find a allegedly low-K's transmission on Facebook Marketplace down in Christchurch, and I arranged for those people to drop it off at a different transmission shop because I wanted to get it stripped and at least have like a rebuild kit put through it before I put it in and send it. So I managed to get them to do that, and the other trans shop put a like a BA XR6 turbo trans kit into it with the more strength bands and plates, and yeah, got a used torque converter sent down to another shop down there and got that rebuilt with a high stall in it. So that was all happening, and yeah, the focus after that turned into getting a warrant of fitness. So that is obviously supercharger off and go for a waff.
Supercharger is all gone. Back to a normal belt drive and a random fucking intake. So, all I really want to do now is do the top ball joints, the spring spaces so it's sitting a bit fucking higher, and take it in for a fucking waff, and then put the supercharger back on.
But I did need to do a couple more things, so it's been driving really bad, just like really handling crap. So most of the front suspension's now new, so I didn't have much left not new in the front, so I replaced the front upper ball joints, and whilst I was in there I pulled the shocks out and put 20mm spacers on the springs, because I put super lows in and they're too low, but they're too soft, and I just was having like bottoming out issues all the time. It's just a real pain in the ass. Like, you had to be like walking speed to turn and go up a driveway, or else the wheel would just bottom out into the front guard. And I was even having bottoming out issues on the open road, going around a corner and hitting not even a huge bump, but hitting a reasonable bump whilst taking a sharp corner around here, and you'd be bottoming out into the guard. So,
well, here we are again, working on the Ute. Got a strut out of there, shit's all out of there, shit's all out of there. There's both of my top A arms, and this strut I've actually fitted the spring spacer to, so that one's ready to go back in once I replace those ball joints and put the arms back in. Well, here we are, back on the ground. And man, did those spring preload doohickeys make a difference. She's fucking probably, I'd say 25 to 30mm lifted in the front. But anyway, back together, fuck yeah.
Did the ball joints, did the spring preload spaces and took it for a wheel alignment. Drives a lot better now, but I think I actually need to do the rear shackle bushes at least, because it's still tracks a bit, but it's a lot better, so that's nice. The next mission to get a WAF was having a complete exhaust system, because I was just running it with the exhaust terminating under the deck. So I had a 3-inch end piece made with a 3-inch resonator and this pretty spanky looking, pretty sexual looking twin exit tip. And that's good. It's actually pulled the volume down a little bit, but it still sounds pretty good, because I did find with it terminating under the deck the way it was just too loud, especially just cruising along at 100k an hour. It was quite loud in the cabin. So yeah, got that all done, took it for a WAF, actually flew straight through a WAF. First time it's had a WAF in quite a while. And then was like, yay, full steam ahead. Had the transmission and torque converter at that stage. And the other job that I decided I wanted to do was I wanted to fit a bigger alloy radiator, because I did find that it wasn't overheating, but it was struggling to control the temperature with the supercharger, especially like going up the Wangamoas. It's quite a steep, windy hill section, and when you're sort of gunning it through there in second and third, it was quite consistently getting up around 100 degrees coolant temperature. So I did, as you'll see in this video, had a few issues, or little snippet videos. It's just actually there's a few videos in this that are just like messenger chat videos that I'd been sending to my brother and a friend.
Well, we're kind of getting there. I've got the feckin' radiator in, but if you sit it down in the factory round rubber mounts, just like these things, it then sits too high and it won't come back far enough, so I pulled them out. Now it sits down enough, but my transmission oil cooler line now gets right in the way of that radiator
but
hose.
yeah, of course the alloy radiator wasn't a straight fit. And I also found one of my fans wasn't working when I was doing that. So she's been a one fan Sally for I'm not sure how long. So I've ordered a couple of, just a standard set of used fans to go back in. But yeah, I just ended up ripping out the faulty fan, and then discovering, I was driving it around and discovered that gave me no fan operation at all, and I had to complete the circuit on the second fan wires to make it go. But it did let me figure out that with no fans at all, as long as I'm doing over sort of 50 k's an hour, it was actually controlling the temperature just with the radiator.
The radiator's all in, I haven't got the top mounts on. Right, I have to take it outside and wash it off and check for leaks.
So where are we at now? Well, we're at now, I took the Ute in a week ago-ish to get the new transmission and torque converter fitted, and that all happened in a couple of days, and then I rang them up on Friday afternoon to pick it up, and they were like, no, there's a problem. When you put it in gear, it just stalls out. It won't actually just idle in gear. And so with some phone calls to the trans guys that built the transmission, the consensus is, and a bit of diagnostics, that the transmission needs to come out and go back to Christchurch. So the transmission's since been removed, and it is actually booked in to get picked up Tuesday the 7th and dropped off to the trans guys on Wednesday morning the 8th of the 4th. And I can't imagine I'm going to see it back in the Ute later that week, so it's going to be another week of it being broken. But I'm kind of hoping the week of the 13th of April, sometime during that week, I'll actually get it back with a good working transmission, high stall torque converter, a bigger radiator, the trans cooler, and all that stuff. And so that following weekend, oh my god, I just realised it's me and my partner's anniversary that weekend. I was going to say that weekend will be the weekend where I put the supercharger back in, but that's shit timing. It might have to be a couple of days after work, working on it to get that done and then we can maybe take that for a run to Blenheim on that weekend. Oh, fingers crossed. Let's just hope that all pans out and I finally get to drive it around and enjoy it with the Supercharger after investing a substantial amount of money at this point and a substantial amount of time to have only really driven it a few hundred Ks with the Supercharger so far. So fingers crossed we can actually get everything working and get it tuned well and actually do some decent driving videos, and let's go and do some skids and go sideways, because why else would you have Supercharged Utes? Wish me luck. And yeah, anyone that's been following along for the journey, I hope in the next couple of weeks I can actually put out some more content. I hope I'm not jinxing myself again, but we will see.